Hi, Paula. Hi, Katrina. Hi, Warren. Hi, Andreas. I think you're here from all over the world. Can you hear me well? Just want to check. Okay, cool. For those that don't know me, my name is Jamyang, as you might have read on the advertising for this program. I'm originally from Holland, and after many years of studying basic program, master's program, doing retreats, I started teaching a few years ago. And I mean, in these years that I studied, I also taught a little bit, but not on a continuous basis. And so at the moment I'm teaching for Tushita, and sometimes I go to Australia or New Zealand, but with the lockdowns, it's very difficult. You know, we're a little bit stuck like everybody else. So for now I'm here at Tushita, and we're gonna do a 7-day course on developing a fearless heart. And the subtitle for the course is The Answer to Today's Troubled World. So I'm going to give you a little bit introduction to the structure of the course, and then about what we're going to talk about today. So we have different groups of people participating in this course. So part of you is here while the teachings are given, and part of you will watch the teachings once these are finished and uploaded to YouTube. So sometimes, I don't know, there might be parts of what I'm doing that is for instance, discussion group is not so handy when you're on your own watching. But then you just fast forward for, normally it's about 10 minutes. And otherwise, you know, fast forward and then go to question and answer. And if you don't like that, you go fast forward to the meditation. So wherever you are, however you follow this course, a very big welcome to all of you. I feel a little bit nervous about the course, also excited about the course. I realized that 7 days is a long time to do so many sessions, 2 sessions a day of each 2 hours. So I hope that we all will sustain our energy and be able to go through these 7 days and come out in a way that will help us to transform our mind. So we do every day 2 times a 2-hour session, and in each session I will teach about 1 hour, maybe a little bit longer, 1 hour 10 minutes, but I don't want to do it more than that. And as part of the teaching, in some of the teachings I might ask you to write some things down for yourself, like a kind of journaling, and I will give you some questions for that. So if you have paper and pen with you, that will be really handy. And I think that will help us to connect more with our own process, you know, because developing a fearless heart is not just coming from, I mean, you can participate in several ways. You can think, oh, I'm just going to listen and that gives me a good feeling and that's it for me, you know, and then, or you can say, no, I actually want to learn how to practice that. I want to learn to connect with my own capacity of compassion, and not just connecting with that, but I also want to do things that are going to help me to develop that quality. So then you need to participate more. You need to use your own thinking. You need to use your own capacity of connecting with aspects in yourself. You need to be able to look into things that might not be so attractive at first sight, but maybe when you look into it, it might actually be very useful and contributing to your development of compassion. So when you're watching the videos after the course is finished, you know, you can also do the journaling. It's very helpful to get insight into your own mind, I think. So when I go through the teachings, questions might come up for you, and you're always free to ask them in the chat box. I hope you all know where the chat box is. Down on the bottom of the screen, there is a bar, and one of the icons says chat. And if you click on that, then you can see at the right side of your screen a place where you can put in questions. It says type your message here. So feel free to do that at any time. I might not stop every time to look at them. But at the end of each session, before we do the meditation, I will reserve some time for question and answer. And then if I haven't had time to look at them during the teaching, I will go to them at that point in time. So the structure of one session is that I teach 1 hour, 10 minutes. Within that teaching, there will be sometimes, or maybe every time, a period where I ask you to write some things down, answer some questions for yourself. And then at the end of the teaching, we do like a little discussion group with breakout room. We put you in little groups in separate rooms where you can meet and discuss with each other. And then we come back, and then we have some time for question and answer. And after that is the meditation. I think 2 hours is quite a long time for a session. I don't know about you. I hope you have enough energy to do that. If needed, we can always insert a little pee-pee break just before the meditation, you know, that you just get up and walk around and come back. But let's see how that goes, you know. So what I've done for this course is, you know, I have used the Buddhist presentation, which we can find in any Lam text, about how we develop compassion in a way that it is reaching out to each and every sentient being. If we talk about fearless heart, it means that we are not holding back for anyone. We are not afraid for anyone. We open our heart for each and every sentient being. So within Buddhist teachings, we're talking about developing bodhicitta, developing great compassion. And so that how to do that we find in the Lam text. So I've used that. But then I have also added things because I've discovered through my own study that the way we have been, I would say, programmed or conditioned is sometimes needs some extra help in order to hear and the teachings in the correct way, in order to internalize the teachings in a way that it is healthy for us and not damaging, you know. So I've added that, and I've also used a book from Thupten Jinpa, which is called A Fearless Heart. Maybe you are familiar with that book. I've used Awakening the Kind Heart from Kathleen MacDonald's, which is a book about how to develop the 4 immeasurable thoughts in your mind and how to meditate on that. And from Pema Children, The Places That Scare You a little bit. And we will also talk about self-compassion. And for that, I used a book from Kirsten Neff about self-compassion. And then, you know, whatever I have experienced through my own process, going through the study, going through, you know, watching my own conditioning and trying to find ways to make, how to say, you know, we all want to have a peaceful mind. So how what do I need to do with my conditioning in order to develop that peaceful mind? So whatever I've learned in that process, I will, of course, use that as well. So that is a little introduction to the course. So then we're going to look into what are we going to do in terms of content. What are we going to talk about? So in general, we can say we want to learn techniques that are going to help us to open the heart. So we first look into what is compassion and why do we want to develop compassion? What are the benefits of compassion? And then we look into how can we generate a solid or not solid, a healthy foundation for developing a fearless heart. And what do we need to do in relationship to ourselves, and how do we extend the love and compassion that we can generate for ourselves? How do we extend that to others? And so then the last day, I thought about, doing the 8 verses of mind transformation, or I'm not sure yet. Yeah, there are different things that we can do. There are different ways that we can, different methods that we can use to transform our mind. The 8 verses of mind transformation are the most famous, and then they can be quite easily done within one day. But we can also add other things like how can we deal with problems? How can we be with our fear in a way that it is going to be an opportunity for growth instead of holding us back? So we'll see how we go with that. All right. So that's my short introduction to the course. And if we talk about developing a fearless heart, developing a heart that is wide open, we call that in Buddhism, that is compassion. Why? Because compassion means the wish for others, for sentient beings, I shouldn't say others, for sentient beings to be free from suffering. If we wish somebody to be free from suffering, the heart automatically opens. True? If we wish someone to suffer, the heart shrinks, the heart contracts. Right? We don't feel happy when we wish others to suffer, even if we think that that is going to make us happy, but we don't feel happy when we do that. But if we think, I want you to be free of suffering, the heart automatically opens. So developing a fearless heart means developing a compassionate heart. Fearlessness in Buddhism is a term that is only reserved for a Buddha. And what is also unique in Buddha is that he had compassion for each and every sentient being in an equal manner. And whatever the Buddha did was coming from his compassion. Whatever the Buddha was teaching was coming from a place of, may all sentient beings be free from suffering. So all the teachings that the Buddha taught have the purpose of freeing us from suffering. So because he has developed his full potential, all the qualities that can be developed in the mind, and because he has freed himself from all the obscurations, not just all the disturbing emotions, but also all the appearances that are not in accordance with reality. Because he has removed all that, he has become fearless. So developing a fearless heart means that if we are really serious about that, is that we say, actually, I want to become a Buddha. Actually, I want to become fully awakened. I want to develop my potential for love and compassion fully. I want to develop all the perfections, so generosity and patience and perseverance and ethics I want to develop them fully. I want to develop my concentration. I want to develop any good quality that you can think about. And I want to remove all the disturbing emotions, all the delusions that arise in my mind, all my reactiveness, my anxiety, my depression, all my false beliefs, all my I shouldn't say false belief. I think every belief is false, you know. So all the beliefs, I want to let go of that. I want to be, you know, if we remove all that from the mind, we can be present in each and every moment with a fully open, awakened mind and see what is needed in the moment, what is most skillfully. And we will have access to so many qualities, and we will have, due to that, developed so many skills that we can be present in each and every moment and be compassionately present and do what is most beneficial. So when I talk about developing compassion, developing bodhicitta, developing the heart, that is what is eventually we can work towards, right? But even if we can just do in daily life, be a little bit more kind, it would already be great, you know. But I think the good thing about studying that whole perspective, what we could achieve in our mind, is very inspiring. And it already gives us some courage. Wow, is that a possibility? Oh my gosh, you know, then we feel more light. We know that that can be done. We know that we do not have to be stuck in the situation where we are at the moment. Things can be done differently. So the Buddha's definition of what is compassion is the wish for sentient beings to be free from suffering. Sentient beings include ourselves. Sentient beings is not just all other sentient beings except ourselves, right? Sentient beings means each and every sentient being, including ourselves. So the wish for sentient beings to be free from suffering. So that concern, that compassion arises quite naturally when we are confronted with another person's suffering. And when we are confronted with somebody suffering, we naturally feel motivated to see what we can do in order to relieve that suffering, right? If you go outside and you see a little creature or a bird or laying there and something has happened, you know, immediately you think, oh, and you walk towards it and you think, what can I do, you know? And maybe you want to pick it up and you want to comfort it somewhere. That reaction comes naturally, right? And I wouldn't say even that is a reaction, that is kind of a response, that is our natural response. So this is part of our human condition, that we respond in this way. So when we do that, you know, having that capacity of compassion, having that naturally capability of reacting like that, offers also the possibility to react to suffering with understanding, with patience, with kindness, right? Rather than with fear and repulsion. Oh my gosh, you know, that person is suffering. I don't want to know anything about that. We also have that reaction when it is too strong, what we see, when it is too much for us, that we cannot deal with that. But if we can, if it is within our own scope to deal with it, we have this capacity to understand what is going on. I know how it feels like to be crushed like that, because, you know, I can imagine what it would feel like. So because I can imagine how it would feel like, I want to act, I want to help. So compassion helps us to open up to the reality of suffering, and it seeks the release of that suffering. Compassion is also what helps us to connect with the feeling of empathy. Empathy is actually what comes just before compassion. Empathy is the feeling. Empathy is feeling what you're feeling. I somehow can imagine what you're feeling. Once I can imagine what you're feeling, automatically follows the compassion that says, I want to alleviate your suffering. True? The better we have that capacity of empathy, the more we are inclined to act when we see suffering. Of course, we help. How can we not help? Right? That is coming from empathy, knowing how it feels when you suffer like that. So if we look into society, what we have done with compassion and what kind of role compassion has played, then we can see that for a long time, we were told that human nature is all about survival of the fittest. Right? That's, I mean, that I got that in school. You know, this is how sentient beings behave, survival of the fittest, as if we all are in competition with each other. And so when we talk about it, that only the fittest will survive, what are we setting each other up for? You know, of course, self-interest is very easily ignited. And then we go in competition with each other. Who is going to survive? You know, I want to be more fit than you. So we have been telling ourselves this story again and again, that our society functions like that. We have set up society in accordance with that. So we have been pushed to become the best. If you're not the best, you're not good enough. If you're not the best, you're a failure. If you're not the best, you're going to be punished. If you're not the best, you know, look into your own life, how you have been pushed, or how you have been pushing yourself in order to be part of something. And so when we are set up in order to be in competition with each other, you know, in competition, there is only one winner. And it can be a team, but it's still one winner and a loser. And so when we set ourselves up for winners and losers, look what happens in our mind. You know, who is ruling in our mind? It is not the compassion. It is not the caring aspect. It is actually the opposite. If we would develop a caring society, we could say, how can we do things so that everybody wins? How can we do things so that it's beneficial for everyone? That's a very different mindset. And so when we are very indoctrinated with the belief of the survival of the fittest, then we might have resistance. Oh no, I cannot give that up, you know, because also somehow we might not believe that when we give up the survival of the fittest, that others are going to care for us when it's needed. So this we will, you know, I think through this course, we will see this, that we have to make a shift there. And the fears that come with making the shift. And how we can analyze that and address that. Because if we keep believing that it is all about the survival of the fittest, and we educate our children that it is all about survival of the fittest, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because what we're going to do is we're becoming more selfish, we become more aggressive, and then we assume that each and everybody around us is similar to that. And because of that, we create fear for the other people around us, for the other creatures around us, or suspicion, or apprehension. It's like, well, I'm not sure they can trust that one because he is also going just for himself, just as I need to go for myself. So we have created a fear-based society. And so if we have a fear-based society, that means that you have to take care of yourself. Nobody's taking care of you. You have to do it yourself. Which means that somehow that gives a separation between me and others. Right? I have to make sure that if I have money, I have to keep it for myself. And even if I don't need it now, maybe I need it later, so I have to keep it for myself. And even if there is a poor person, you know, that person also have to take care of themselves. I cannot take care of everybody, so I cannot just give everything away. This is how we think, right? We learn to hold. And we can hold money, but we can also hold many other things, you know, even kindness, even patience, even other kinds of qualities. We hold them. We are not generous with them because we fear that something might happen when we show too much. But by doing that, we separate ourselves, right? When we have the fear that we're going to lose something, there is a danger. When there's fear, there's always something that is the danger. So that creates a separation in our own mind with respect to how we relate to ourselves and to others. So if we would have a society in which we tell our children, in which we tell ourselves that from the beginning, actually, we are social creatures and we all have the instinct of compassion and kindness. Why? Because we are interdependent beings and our welfare is intertwined. If we would think like that, our view of reality and the way we behave in the world would totally change. If you would tell children that from the beginning we have an inner goodness that wants to help, that wants to give, that wants to share, that wants to do things together. And if we educate children, let them grow up in a system where they are taught how to develop these qualities, the society would totally change. So then you can think, wow, but which one is true? Are we survival of the fittest is somehow true, you know, and survive but also we care for each other is somehow true. So which one is the real one, you know? And I think we have a choice. I think they're both aspects of our mind that gets triggered. And we have a choice which one we're going to develop. Are we going to go for the fear-based, I just have to take care of myself, you know, and become this I don't know how to say that. To become this being that is constantly concerned with themselves? Or do I want to become a being that is opening the heart and is willing to share whatever I have? Because I have the potential to become both. Buddhism says the potential to become compassionate is actually your true nature, is your basic nature, is underneath everything. Your fear-based nature is something that you have learned, is something that is based on this based on in accordance with reality. There can be hurt by the fear.
We're losing you very, very well.
Okay, are we having bad connection?
Yeah, all of a sudden.
I'm checking.
There we go. Now it's back.
Now it's back. Okay, I got an interruption. Oh, we cannot hear you. It does say that. I'm so sorry. 11:32. Can you hear me now again? Connection is good. Okay. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, whether we have what is our true nature? The nature, the compassionate nature or the fear-based nature. And so Buddhism says the compassionate nature is what you truly are. And there are different reasons for that. One reason is a fear-based nature, which is all about me and me. It is impossible to develop that for each and every sentient being. Or I should say, it is impossible to develop that in relation to each and every sentient being on a constant basis. We cannot have fear or anger in ourselves with respect to each and every sentient being all the time. It's impossible, right? We can be angry with one person, two persons, five persons, maybe a whole group of people. We can be scared of a whole group of people, but there is always someone, that we relate to, whether it's our mother, father, brothers, sisters, friends. There is always someone that we feel love towards. With love and compassion, we can generate a mind that has love and compassion for each and every sentient being, and we can sustain that mind into forever. If we have developed the mind far enough, these qualities will be in our mind forever without any effort. And so because of that, Buddhism says loving kindness, compassion is our true nature. And that fear-based self that appears to us and that we experience between me and you and what is mine and what is yours. And that is all conditioned. That is adventitious. That is not something that belongs inherently in the mind. It has arisen due to causes and conditions. And so if we have enough wisdom, we can eliminate that from the mind. And in order to give that wisdom power, we need to develop our compassion. So why would we generate compassion now? I think now the world has even more compassion. It needs even more compassion than before. I mean, today, in the last half year, we have arrived in a very strange time, right? Many of you are in lockdown, some more, some less. But definitely by what we have heard on the news from maybe people that we know, it has woken up a lot of fears in our mind. If we look into so when there's fear in the mind, you know that the mind is like, for me, it always feels like a contraction of the heart. It makes it more difficult for the heart to open. It makes it more difficult to connect with others. It makes it more difficult to really understand where other people are. It makes more impatient. Fear is very much concerned with me. Fear is a contraction because my world becomes so much smaller. I'm so occupied with myself. I don't even want to think about others too much. It's all too much. I cannot do that. I'm too much busy with myself. So that is a very good reason then to find ways to counteract that, you know? We all react like that to stories that threaten our health, that threaten our life. You know, we all react with fear. Oh my God. You know, we might become non-existent. That's the most terrifying thing that we can hear. So we don't have to beat ourselves up that we are afraid. You know, that is just a natural reaction. But that doesn't take away that we have the nature of being compassionate. It is just that the fear is covering it up. That is just that the fear is disconnecting us from that nature. And so what we can do is look for, how can I reconnect with my true nature? How can I wouldn't say counteract the fear, but how can I focus upon something that is actually more meaningful, more me, who I truly am? If I focus on that, you know, then fear naturally starts to disappear. Fear only has a hold when I truly believe that the self, this is me, and I have to take care of me. And I take everything seriously, what I hear. So that is happening at the moment. And I think, I don't know, probably we are all triggered in the fear. But if we look into the big picture, you know, even before this pandemic started, we can see that our world needs compassion. We are living with so many beings on this planet, and it is very difficult the way that we take the resources to have enough for everyone. And so when it looks like the home, in case we to look at
One moment, please. We just lost Venerable Jamyang. She's getting connected again.
Oh, I'm back. I'm so sorry. We have some kind of our internet sometimes disappears. I'm very sorry. So you haven't missed anything. So I was talking about the bigger picture, why we need compassion in this world, due to the fact that we have a limited amount of resources, or I would say the way we are living at the moment, we are using resources in a way that they're going to be, there's going to be a shortage of that if we continue doing this. The planet doesn't have enough to give the way we are living right now, to give that to everyone. And of course, you know, when you see people living in countries where everything is beautiful and wonderful and perfect, and you want that too, right? So we have to see, what are we going to do with that? How can we do that in a way that it's better for the planet and that we share more fairly with everyone? But what we and then, you know, we have to look, what do we do with the environment? Because using too much more of the resources than are available for each and every being means that the way we produce things, we pollute the environment. We don't care water, we don't care about the planet, the earth, what we earth. You know, it's like, and I think the way we behave, you know, it's all coming from greed. It's all coming from wanting. Doing that, if we keep doing this, we are just going to run straight towards total. No, there's going to be a time that things are not going to be available anymore. Or the pollution is so big that we're going to die from that. So that's one thing that we need to take care of. But then from the other side, you know, due to the internet, we become so aware that we are part of the world. We can reach each and every part of the world through internet. We can look everywhere what is going on, but we can also connect with people from all parts of the world. And we can build up in that way networks that are going to do things in a different way. And so being aware of what is going on everywhere in the world and what people are thinking, and seeing maybe the similarities in what people wish for. And, you know, this is going to help us to expand our awareness, knowing that we are not alone, that we are all in this together. You know, this is a common experience that we have with each other, which we need to deal with each other. And so experiencing that we are all part of one humanity that needs to find a way to share this planet in a healthy way. You know, that is what this compassion is about. If we really take this seriously, we can change. We can make a change in the world. And if you look into religious practices, you know, all the religions, they talk about compassion. They talk about developing a mind that is not based on survival of the fittest, but that is based on caring for each other. So it is not that only Buddhists are doing this. You know, we can find this in Christians, we can find this in Muslims, we can find this all over the world. And also, I think many of the old cultures, the indigenous cultures, they naturally know that only together, only when you take care of each other, you know, you can survive. So in science now, they also slowly come to discover that competitive nature that is just running for the survival of the fittest is not our true nature or only nature. You know, they can only also see that we have a caring aspect and a compassionate aspect and with which we can work together, and that might actually also be very beneficial. And so scientists are also starting to understand how we can train our mind, how we can affect our brain by consciously training our mind in a different way. You know, they have acknowledged that the brain has some plasticity, which means that it can change. Still working as a physio, I remember of the plasticity because I was working with little children, and there it was acknowledged children, their brains are still have this plasticity, so therefore you can learn the new skills or different skills, or they're not yet wired in a change. But adults, they cannot change anymore. They're already so wired they cannot change. That was what was taught in neuroscience at that time. But now, thanks God, you know, they have found, oh, it's actually not like that. Even adults, they have a neuroplasticity that gives us the capacity to change, to make new pathways of thinking, with training, you know, we can get out of these loops that we so easily get into, pathways that at a certain point can become a new loop, you know, where we can go into even when the situation is difficult. So that is what we can use in order to train compassion. Compassion is just a quality that we can train the mind to become habituated with. When the mind is trained at a certain point, it becomes natural for us to be compassionate. So if we look into species that work together, you know, in terms of survival, then it actually shows that those species that work together to survive, they have the best chance of surviving, not the ones who go for themselves. In nature, going for yourself is really the most stupid thing that you can do. That's like running towards your death straight away. How can you survive on your own in nature? Yeah. We need each other, and that the working together is more important than what I personally need, especially if my personal need is going to separate me from my group, from my community. If we know this, you know, then we can develop different ways of being with each other, which are more healthy, which make us more happy, which make us more relaxed. Good for everyone. This time is really good to see that self-centered mind, right? I can see that attachment and anger and fear, and it arises so easily in the mind. You can remember how your mind was half a year ago and what has changed, how you feel now. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, put them in the chat, and just give me half a minute to do that. Has changed in your mind since the beginning of the lockdown? And has this change of mind changed your behavior? That's the main question. And then you can think about how you feel in relationship to yourself, how you feel in relationship to others. You can think about fear and an open mind. What has happened in your mind? You know, so the main question is, what has happened in your mind? And has this changed your behavior? And I'm going to give you maybe 8 minutes to write that down. I give you 8 minutes to write that down. And I'm going to look up the question so that I can copy it in the chat for you. Oh no, that's not it. Okay, I'll give it to you here in the chat to everyone. No, it's not doing that. Is it? Let me do that again.
Okay. I'll start the groups now, right, Venerable?
No, we're not doing the breakout.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's just some questions out for the chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe you can click the icon of reactions and put up your thumb. Great one. And then try to finish your writing. Whatever you have written down, because later you might come back to that, and even after the course you might have a look at that and think, you know, what has shifted, what has changed. It's always helpful to look back at our own state of mind at a certain point in time. All right, and I would like to continue. So even if you feel you're not ready, you know, feel free to keep writing, and you find it useful to write about this, you can do that once you have finished. So why do we want to develop compassion? You know, we can say compassion makes us more happy. We all want to be happy, and we all want to be free of suffering. And in itself, there is nothing wrong with that. But the way we are trying to find happiness at the moment is not skillful. For us, happiness is that we get what we want. And getting what we want is coming from a self-centered attitude. And so in this course, we will talk more about how that self-centered attitude works and how we can do things differently so that the mind becomes more compassionate. And so compassion helps us to see that bigger picture. It's not all about ourselves. So it helps to get out of disappointments, our regrets. It helps us to get away from our worries about ourselves and instead focus upon something bigger. And if we look into, you know, our nature, and I already said something about it, we are all born to connect. We all have the seed of compassion in our mind. You know, compassion is part of our basic nature. When we are born, we totally rely upon the care of others. As a baby, you can do nothing. You know, you're laying on your back and you depend for your food, for your cleanliness, for your warmth, for everything upon other human beings. And automatically, we feel that little children are so cute. You know, we just want to hold them. We want to take care of them. That is your compassion. That is your seed of compassion. It comes automatically when there is someone who's very vulnerable, you know. Why do babies look so cute? because it will help to invoke that compassion from the carers. It will help for the baby to survive. If the baby is very ugly, if we would be born like monsters, you know, and then mom, she's like, oh my gosh, I don't want that one, you know, she might not be so willing to care. But moms, I mean, this is a hypothesis, don't believe that. Normally, actually, moms, they love their baby no matter how they look like. They all find their own baby the most beautiful baby in the world. That beauty automatically helps that we want to give. If we look into animals, how the mother takes care of the little ones with so much love, so much care, right? It is in us. It comes automatically. So we all have that seed. So what we try to develop in Buddhism is we try to develop the compassion like the mother has for her only child. That kind of compassion we try to develop for each and every sentient being. So that is how we first react, you know. And if we look into how little children behave, they are always willing to help. Right? If you're doing something and they see you're dropping something, they come and pick it up and give it to you. They love doing that. You know, and there are little games with children that you play, and I think when they're 6 months, 8 months, I think 8 till 1 year, you know, you give them something and they hold it, and then you say, give it back to me, and they are first like, oh no, I want to hold on to it, and then they start giving it, and then they feel like, oh wow, this is a nice little game. I give it to you, and you give it back, and I give it to you, and there is a joy that comes with that. So compassion has lots of benefits, and I'm gonna speed this a little bit up because we want to go to the discussion as well. So the benefits of compassion. Compassion comes from empathy. So empathy, when we are empathic, then when we see somebody who is suffering, we have a response to these feelings, and somehow we have an understanding what this person is going through. And then from that, the wish comes, I want you to be free of suffering. So compassion arises from empathy, but compassion is much more active than empathy. Another benefit is that we need compassion to survive. And I already mentioned that before, that although we talk about survival of the fittest, if you look into nature, it is the species that work together in order to survive that are much more thriving, much more successful in survival than the ones who just want to take care of themselves. So compassion, if we think about we receiving compassion, you know, we can see that we all have that need. If somebody is kind to us, compassionate to us, you know, we already feel so much better. If we go to the doctor and we complain about our old troubles, and that person is listening to us, really listening with the heart, you know, we already feel much. I'm taking the medicine, but I already feel much better because we have met someone who. So we know that our own happiness depends very much on other beings being compassionate and kind to us. We also all have the need for connection. Being disconnected from your group is the most, I think, is one of the most painful experiences to have. You know, your family who doesn't want to have anything to do with you, or maybe when you do not conform with the group, there is a threat that you're going to be punished and kicked out of the group. You're going to be isolated from the group. very scary for us, you know. We need that connection. And it is compassion that creates connection. Compassion creates real connection. When we are compassionate, we feel good, right? If we care, sometimes people are depressed. I know from for instance, when children are depressed, they often get the advice to have a little animal where the child can take care of. And when the child takes care of a little animal, the compassion starts to arise. And not is it letting go of the depression, but you're going to feel good about yourself. You know, this is somehow it releases some kind of hormones, some endorphins in the brain that makes you feel good. And I think they did some study on that, you know, and the hormones that, or the brain part that gets activated when we are compassionate is the same part of the brain as that gets activated when we think about being rewarded, or when we think of chocolate, you know, something that is really very nice, you know, uplifting. Same part of the brain when we are compassionate. When we are compassionate, we also have a sense of purpose. Right? We have, it gives meaning to our life. And when we engage in compassionate actions, it lifts up our heart, it lifts up the stress. It is not anymore occupied with our own suffering. Our own individual burden, the worries, lifts when we are thinking about other people's problems. You know, sometimes I wake up and I'm very occupied with myself and I feel miserable. And then if I reach out to someone and I listen to their problems, you know, my problems are gone somehow. Why? Because the heart opens. And when the heart opens, you know, your self-occupation just disappears and you feel much better. When we have compassion, we are more patient, we have more understanding for others, and it will help us not to go so quickly in reactive states of mind, like being angry or impatient, or, you know, compassion somehow creates a protection. And when we have a lot of compassion, or even if we have a little compassion, when we have compassion, when we connect, it makes us less lonely and therefore less afraid. Loneliness is a very painful form of suffering. Loneliness gives a lot of stress. Loneliness can bring the hormones out of balance, can damage our nervous system. You know, the reason that people commit suicide is that many do that because they are suffering so deeply, and that suffering, they cannot connect that with others. That part of them that is so lonely, somehow they cannot make a connection to others, so that the loneliness disappears and they feel like, oh, you know, I am connected. They cannot make that connection somehow. And so they stay in that loneliness, and that is just, can be so devastating that you think, I do not want to live anymore. So when we have compassion, we are not only we don't feel so lonely, we feel more connected, and that connection will help us to connect to others, to engage, to develop better relationships. And they also say when we have a lot of compassion and when we are kind, we become more attractive to others. Others like us. Ah, she's nice, you know, he's nice. Why? Because the heart is open. And when the heart is open, other sentient beings find us attractive. So there are many benefits in generating compassion. And you can think about them over and over and over again. If you feel a little bit low and you think, oh no, I don't want to do that, think about the benefits. That is what makes you really feel good. Feel good about yourself, connecting to others, feel good with others, being caring. It's a secret of being happy, being more compassionate. Time is running very fast, so maybe we do a little discussion with each other, maybe 10 minutes. And 4 or 5, there are 9, 17 groups of 4 and 1 group of 5. And then what you will get the questions in the chat in your breakout group, and Philippe will put you in a group. And then you talk about, why do you find it important to have compassion? In what kind of situation? Hard automatically? And in what kind of situations is it more challenging? And how do you feel more compassionate? So you will find the questions in the chat. And what I would like to do is that you let each and every person speak, and that you listen to the similarities. And maybe you make a little, will take 10 minutes, which is very short. I don't know why you send that now to everyone, Philippe, but that's okay. So keep your answers very short and listen mainly to the similarities and write that down. And then when we come back, we might not have time to do that today, but maybe you can send that to me in the chat or in an email, and I can, or maybe you keep it for yourself and you realize, hey, we're actually quite similar in the way we react and what we find easy and what we find difficult. All right, so I hope you understand. And Philippe is going to put you in groups, and then I'll see you back in 10 minutes for the meditation and 1 question.
All right, so I'm getting the group started now.
Can you bring the people back? Yeah. Oh, there you are all. Cool. Was that a helpful discussion? Give me a thumbs up. Yes, cool. Was there anything that came out of that is useful to share? And I'm really sorry, sometimes we lose connection, and also when we lose connection, I lose your questions. And I have seen a question from Todd about the Buddha nature, or what is our nature, and I hope I answered you that, or if you want to hear more about that, please let me know. And there was a question about the 8 verses of mind transformation, and I mentioned in the beginning that on day 7 I have the intention to talk about that. But not yet. We first need to create a very healthy basis in ourselves for developing compassion. So was there anything that you'd like to share from the discussion group? You can type it in the chat box. Did you find common aspects in the way you react and the way others react? It was great, just a bit short, okay. Yeah, I think 3 questions is a little bit much for the discussion. And at the same time, if I ask 1 question, you might think, oh, what are we talking about, you know? So I shared a book I found very helpful, Dealing with Trauma. The Body Keeps the Score. Yeah, that's a very good book. I think it helps to show how we all want the same thing. And what is that, Paula, that you all want? What is the main thing? Happiness for all. We all want to be free of suffering. Yeah, peace of mind. And more compassion is a better world. More compassion, peace of mind. Wait, Paula, happiness for all, more compassion for all. But they go a little bit together, no? And a path to peace. And so contentment, yes. And what we maybe have to acknowledge is that although we are all very good willing human beings, the way we are trying to do things somehow doesn't bring us peace of mind, somehow creates disturbances in the mind, somehow doesn't make us really happy. We will talk about the cause of fear and the cause of why we are in this. Why are we in this? We'll talk about that day after tomorrow. We go deeply into what is the root cause of all this. Why are we creating that survival of the fittest mind, you know, that self-centered mind? And what do we need to do in order to totally release that? Warren, you write conflicting thoughts or conflicting ideas. We want to be free of that. Is that what you mean? Or is that something that you share with everyone? Okay, yes, okay. Yes, sometimes we have these internal conflicts, isn't it? That like 2 sides of our own mind are fighting with each other and we cannot really find the right way. And to find that peaceful place in the mind can sometimes be very challenging. Okay, thank you very much. I hope it was helpful. We will do every day a breakout group and I will try, you know, some people, they say 10 minutes is too long. Some people say 10 minutes is too short. Tomorrow we will do, or maybe this afternoon, we'll do a little poll and we check what is suitable for this group, what you would prefer. And I will adjust the rest of the teaching in accordance to that. So there's any questions related to what I spoke about this morning? Yeah, some are talkers and some are listeners. Yeah, that can also be. So we will try to make every day different groups. And then sometimes, you know, you might be all listeners and everybody's quiet. Good when you're in the group that you somehow make sure that everybody talks and also that everybody listens, you know. Yes, there are people who talk, but what happens to you when you, and there are people who are listeners, but what happens to you when you start journaling on the mind of action. Oh, thank you very much. So it seems that today I'm popping in and popping out. Something is going on with the internet in the area. I know yesterday I had the same thing at home. And the guys don't really know. They say, now it's fixed. And then 5 minutes later, it's gone again. So let's challenge our karma and hope that we will keep connecting fastly every time after we disconnect. Are there any more questions? Otherwise, we'll do a meditation. No questions. If they still pop up, you know, you can always put them in at the beginning of next session and I will look at it. Are there any Tibetan or other movies that you recommend to learn about the developing a fearless heart? I don't watch movies. I'm very sorry. I'm too impatient for that. I mean, there are some movies from His Holiness. What was that called? Maybe Felipe knows that. I will check with him. There is one movie about the story from His Holiness. That is very inspiring to open the heart, to develop compassion. Is compassion like an endless fount within ourselves? Is it possible to find ourselves tired of being compassionate? So that depends on our motivation. That depends on our foundation also. So if we tap into the right place with the right conditioning, with the right frame of mind, we can tap into a source of compassion which is endless. But if we have some misconceptions, and I find them mainly being misconceptions related to how to take care of, how to be compassionate with oneself, then, so if we have these misconceptions, then we can, being compassionate with others, become very tired. We can actually even get a compassion burnout. Compassion burnouts happens often with people pleasers who always want to help, who feel happy when they're helping, but they do not know how to take care of themselves. So we will talk about that extensively because it is very important that we have that relationship with ourselves in a way that it becomes the basis of that fountain that can keep going endlessly. Okay. So the meditation. So I will try to look up that title of the movie. Philip, you have to help me, remind me. Philip is upstairs, so if you see me watching upstairs.
Venerable, do you mean the one that recently got published?
We watched it here. We watched it on the big...
Yeah. The Great 14th it was. The
Great 14th.
Yeah, Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama and his own words. That's the title.
Okay, can you type that in the chat?
Sure, I'll put a link to it.
So you'll find the link to the movie in the chat. Don't look at that yet because if we put the link there, people need to copy that, no? They cannot find that later.
No, they can't, but I can also add it to the resource folder.
Yeah, do that. That's great. So you find it in the resource folder, okay? So let's finish this first session with a meditation. A meditation where I thought as a start, I first wanted to give you all the instruction for the meditation, but maybe you already know a little bit about how to meditate. And we're just going to connect with our own body, where we are at the present moment, just to, as a preparation also for the next session, where I want to go deeper into that. Connecting with the body is I find it a very pleasant and a very beneficial way to bring the mind into the present moment. When the mind is in the present moment, the mind becomes more peaceful. The mind becomes less disturbed, less worried, less occupied. It looks like we are self-centered, right, when we focus on our own body. But we're focusing on the body to be present. And when we are present and the mind is more present, actually the self-centered mind starts to relax. So for the meditation, make sure that you sit in a comfortable position. You can sit formally on a meditation cushion in meditation posture, or you can also sit on a chair. And even if you feel like, I want to sit in my relaxed, comfy chair, then that's what you do. Normally in meditation, we like the body to be straight up, so that the spine is straight, so that the energy can move freely up and down. Also, having a straight spine helps us to bring that energy to the middle, to, I wouldn't say central channel, but to somehow center our energy. And if we do that, and I cannot explain you now how that works, but all the disturbing emotions, like our attachment, our anger, our doubt, our ignorance, our jealousy, they all naturally are pacified just by sitting in a posture where your back is straight. Your shoulders are relaxed. Your hands, you can either put them on your thighs in a relaxed manner, or you can put your right hand on top of your left and the thumbs slightly touching each other. Your head is a little bit bent forward. Your tongue is touching the palate, just behind the teeth. And your eyes are closed, but they allow a little bit of light to come in so that we don't fall asleep. And then I'm going to ask you to focus your awareness on different parts of the body. And we are going through the body from the top of the head to the toes and the fingers. And so when I mention the parts of your body, just bring your awareness to that part. Let your mind rest on that particular part of the body. And then consciously relax that part, letting go of any tension that you might have. So we start with bringing the attention to the head. And start at the top, the crown of your head. And relax that by imagining that there is some space between the skin around your head and your skull. There is some space. Relax. And then relax the other muscles in your face, going down your nose and cheeks. Relax the side of your head and the back of your head. Relax your brain. Let go of any worries or troubles that might be putting pressure on your brain. Make your head light inside and outside. Then let your awareness travel down to your throat and neck. Be aware of any tension that might we can express our true nature. So give yourself permission to show your softness and openness. And relax the muscles in the back of the neck. And then let you relax your shoulder burden or problem that you may be carrying. And then let your awareness continue to travel down through your back, relaxing the upper part of the back, your shoulder blades, the space in between your shoulder blades. As if you open your wings. Then relax the middle part of your back. And move to the lower part of your back. And feel that you are okay the way you are. And that you fully support that. You are supported by yourself, but also by nature, by the universe, by the elements, however you want to call it. And then bring your awareness up to your chest. Relax your chest, make it soft. With every breath you take, you make it more soft. And then go inside your chest and relax your lungs. And you can make your chest so soft that you can imagine that air flows directly in and out of your chest and the skin. So we relax all our internal organs, our liver, kidneys, pancreas, spleen, and also, and then go down to the organs within your abdomen and release any tension you may have there. Often we hold our undigested issues right in there. And then let your awareness continue to move downwards and relax the muscles in your hips, your buttocks, and the whole pelvic region. And then let your awareness travel down through your legs, relaxing the muscles in the upper parts of the legs, relaxing the knees, the calf muscles, the ankles, the feet, and the toes. And you can imagine that your legs become hollow tubes, allowing energy to flow without any hindrance. And eventually completely dissolving into light. Finally, go to your arms. Bring your awareness to the top of your shoulders and let it travel down both arms, relaxing the muscles in the upper parts of the arms, then the elbows, the lower parts of the arms, the wrists, and finally the hands and the fingers. Imagine that they also become hollow tubes, allowing energy to flow without any hindrance. And eventually dissolve into light. Feel your whole body. And observe what happens in your mind. Observe your mind being present with the body. And when the mind can rest on the body, disturbing emotions cannot arise. And even when they try to arise, when we stay focused, on the body, resting the mind on the body. That is what we are experiencing. Feel your whole body. Listening your body. Thank you all for staying with me. I'm really sorry about the internet that comes and goes, but I have also nothing to say about that. It's a little bit frustrating. But I still hope that, I mean, I know when it's gone and I stop the meditation. So I hope you still had a good body scan and that you feel present in your body, present and happy, relaxed in your body. And we're going to do the next session in 4 hours, 5 o'clock Indian time. In the meantime, relax. Don't put too many things in your mind. Just relax, stay present. You know, that I think is going to help most when we go through the sessions. And then we go from there. All right. Thank you so much for being here and not having given up on our connection. Maybe this is the challenge. We talk about connection and then we lose connection all the time. So we stay positive and we keep trying to make connection again and again. And I hope to see you at 5 o'clock my time. Thank you very much.